12, the Honourable Rodney Hyde.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance and asks, what would the top rate of tax need to be to implement a $5,000 tax-free threshold, reverse the government's spending cuts, remove GST from fresh fruit and vegetables, all while not increasing New Zealand's debt track any further?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, such a rate is very difficult to calculate because, in theory at least, the rate you would need to strike to raise $1.55 billion would be something around 58 to 60 cents, the highest in the world. But of course, if you struck that rate, you would get many times over the rash of avoidance that occurred when the previous government put the top rate up to 39 cents. I suspect that they wouldn't be able to go to 58 cents, that they'd have to put up tax rates right across all income ranges in order to pay for the $5,000 tax-free zone. And that's before we get to raising tax to pay for all the other promises in addition.
How would that required tax rate compare to taxes around the world and in particular in Australia?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, it compares by being the highest tax rate in the world. And if there's one thing we've learned about in recent years, it is the mobility of income and the ability of people to organise their affairs to avoid a top tax rate. So I'd have to say that even the highest personal tax rate in the world won't be anything like enough to raise the revenue required to fund the tax-free zone. In fact, Labor would have to increase tax rates right across the income range to pay for that promise.
The Honourable Rodney Hyde.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Has New Zealand ever had tax rates at that level? And if so, what were the comments of the government at the time that reversed that?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, that's exactly right, Mr Speaker. It was 66 cents, progressively reduced to 33 cents by the Cabinet of which Phil Goff was a member and also a strong advocate of reducing the top tax rate for all the reasons that I've just said. That if you put tax rates at 66 cents, hardly anyone actually pays it. It undermines the integrity of the system. So in fact what Labor would have to do to pay for the tax-free threshold is lift tax rates for every working New Zealander, and that means they wouldn't be better off.
Honourable members, the three questions to members set out on the question paper are actually now out of order. The questions relate to the Marine and Coastal Area Takutai Moana Bill and address the chairperson of the Māori Affairs Committee. When the questions were accepted at 10:30 a.m. this morning, the bill was before the Māori Affairs Committee. The bill has now been reported to the House and is no longer before the committee. While the questions were properly accepted this morning, they are now out of order. A question to a chairperson of a select committee must relate to a matter for which the committee has charge. I refer members to Standing Order 371 and Speaker's Ruling 149, Bar 2. And that brings to a close point of order, the Honourable David Parker.
Mr Speaker, the members of the opposition are in a difficult position here because the normal procedures of that committee have been severely truncated. We've only got one house in this parliament and therefore we're reliant on good select committee procedures to get good law. What remedy do I have to ask questions about these poor processes?
Well, order now that the bill has been reported back to the House. The member will have ample opportunity, I'm sure, during the what I'm sure will be significant debates in this House to raise all the concerns he has about that. I call on Government Order of the Day for the debate on the Prime Minister.